Hey guys, welcome to the first episode of a series of resin courses. These are going to be introductory, step-by-step instructions, a guide on how to create basic but beautiful pieces. So we're gonna start with the supplies. And right before we get into the supplies, make sure that you have done your research about proper protective equipment. I'm not going to get too much into details for that, but you do actually need a respirator mask, nitrile gloves, and there are some other precautions that you should definitely take a look at and look into and make sure this is right for you. But supplies, what we're going to do is look at, this is part B. So we have part A, part B. So your resin will usually come as a 1-to-1 ratio 2-part set. So the brand I'm using is Amazing Clear Cast. I purchased it from Michael's. It's by the brand Alumilite. So it's 1-to-1 ratio. It's about 30 to 40 minutes work time, and it takes about 24 to 48 hours to cure. So we're gonna have our resin. We have a mold. This is the mold that we're gonna be working with. So there's 4 coasters in here, and it's like a rectangle square with just a little bit of a geode on one edge of each coaster. And then I have my large measuring cup from the Dollar Tree. I'll explain why there's water in there in a little bit. And then we have our little silicone cups. These are basically for each color. You can use all silicone cups, or you can use just paper cups. So I use these mostly for my metallic colors, or colors that I'm not going to use a lot of. It just makes it easier. I have regular wooden popsicle sticks that I use for each of the little colors, or you can use the silicone sticks. Those are also an option. These definitely help when mixing your big batch of resin to make sure that you're not introducing bubbles into your mixture. And for pigments, I'm going to be using a few colors. So they're all acrylic paints. And the purpose of this is basically me showing you that you can use acrylic paints with resin. So I have, this is like a navy blue, deep navy. These are all by Apple Barrel. So these are purchased at, except for this one, purchased at Walmart. So I have deep navy. This is a multi-surface acrylic paint. And then we have, this is like a satin acrylic paint. It really doesn't matter, but this one is Acapulco. It's basically like a Tiffany mint. And then we have, this is from Michael's Craftsmart brand. This is, I believe it was about the same price probably as the one, these at Walmart. This is bright pink. So it's like a magenta. I may be adding a little bit of hot pink into that. And then we have pumpkin orange. This is the Apple Barrel brand acrylic paint. And then what I usually do when I'm using acrylic paints, at least recently, I've been mixing mica powders in with them. So I have, this is kind of matching that orange color I showed you. This one to kind of go along with that magenta color I showed you. This one's in blue, a mica powder to match my navy. This is for white, so I may be using white. I haven't decided yet. And then this one is like a blue-green. It's a little bit darker than the Tiffany color, but it'll be really pretty together with that. If I do use white, it's going to be this Cast and Craft Opaque Pigment Concentrate. It's like a mess, literally. My bottle has been leaking since I bought it. So we have that white. And then lastly is metallic. I think it's really good to introduce a metallic into your coasters, at least one. It just brings out a different kind of shine and shimmer. So this one is from the Let's Resin brand on Amazon. This is antique gold. So there's a couple of things I'm going to explain before getting started. So if you have this particular mold, then you don't really have to do this water trick. But if you're using a different mold to work with today, then I have a way so that you can figure out how much resin you're going to need without just guessing, because sometimes you guess and then you won't have enough, or you'll have too much. So in my cup I have, let's see, this is about 450 milliliters of water. So what I'm going to do is pour water into each of the coasters. You can either try to fill them up to the very top, or at least 80% full, just in case you want to do a clear coat. That and last one. Okay, I think they're all just about full. So left in here, I have about 200 milliliters. So that tells me that my coasters altogether, they probably average about 250 milliliters. So what I'm gonna do is pour, because they're not all the way to the top, so I'm gonna probably pour about 300 to 350 milliliters of resin. And that's kind of your trick to see how much resin you would need. So I'm gonna go ahead and attempt to pour this back into the cup, or into this other cup over here. We're gonna see how this works out. If it spills, it's just water, and it's spilling. Okay, spilled everywhere. So the mess is cleaned up. Okay, so after you figure out how much resin you need, we're gonna hold off on actually starting to mix our resin. I like to have everything prepared before mixing, because then that's more time I have to actually have the colors lay out the way I want to. So I want my size of the coaster to be gold. If you're using like a different metallic like silver or copper, then you can use that color. But basically whatever color you want to guiled edge your coasters, you can go ahead and use that color now. So what you're gonna need is, I'm using a little makeup brush, but you can have any artist brush as well. The makeup brush, this is like really focused. I don't do makeup, so I just know that this brush is very like focused and just tapered. So it's easy for me to kind of get into every corner. So I'm gonna dip my brush into the pigment powder. This is a gold pigment powder, antique gold. And it's okay if it kind of gets everywhere, as long as you're getting that focused part on the edges. So this is before I'm even pouring, I'm doing this. This is very messy, so be mindful. Basically, this will create a smooth metallic edge without you having to do that extra work once your coaster is done. Okay, got most of it. I'm gonna go to the next one. I'm gonna lift it up so I can see. And these gold pigment powders are pretty, I guess the word is strong. So I try not to use too much in my actual coaster, because even from this edge, when you pouring the resin around it or on it, it adds that gold metallic into your piece. Okay, so next, I'm gonna wrap around this way. You're just getting all sides. So if you're using a different kind of mold, which is also, of course, a possibility, you're not using this one, you do the same thing with that mold. You go in with your metallic, if you want that metallic edge, and just rub all around the edges. And of course, with other molds, it may be easier. There's not as many dips and hills. Last one. I'm trying not to use too much, but it's like impossible to get just the right amount. Okay. Just taking some from other coasters so I'm not wasting any. Okay, and the last piece is this bottom part. I'm trying to move my hand so you can see. Okay, I think I got all the little dips. Okay. All right, now once you have that part completed, we're gonna move our gold to the side. Move our makeup brush out the way. We no longer need that right now. So just so that you have a better idea, the way I came up with this color palette, honestly, Pinterest, that's kind of my go-to. If you're looking to kind of use one specific color, you can type in that one color. So if I was looking for a palette that includes this kind of like Tiffany blue, I would probably say Tiffany blue color palette. And on Pinterest, it'll pull up different color palettes that work with that color. And that's really a good kind of cheat sheet to help. So that's how I came up with my colors. So what I'm gonna do is just make sure this is leveled and ready to go. So we're gonna mix, just in case I wanna make sure. I'm gonna mix it probably about 400 milliliters, and that's just in case amount. So I'm probably gonna have some left over. If so, I'll just put it into a coaster, but another coaster, a separate one. I usually have molds nearby, so I do have some molds just hanging around. So I'm gonna go ahead and get ready to pour. So for this resin, it's easier for me to pour the side B first. This is the looser, thinner, I guess, textured part of the resin, and this part, honestly, this part, it makes it difficult to keep both parts even, if that makes sense. So while you're pouring throughout the days and weeks, and you're getting low to your very last, I found that if I pour A first, I always have a lot more of B left. It's never like an even amount, but if I start pouring B first from the beginning, I have a more even amount when I'm using it, if that makes sense. So since I need 400 milliliters, this is 1:1 ratio. I'm gonna go ahead and pour 200 of part B. Be as even as possible. That is the most important part about resin. So I have 200 of part B. Let's go ahead and pour 200 of A. And A is that thicker textured side to the resin. Okay. All right. So now we have both parts poured. I'm just gonna let it, I'm gonna move this to the side for a second. I'm gonna let it rest just for a minute, not too long, just to start to get those bubbles to rise up, so it's easier for me to work with it with other colors. Okay, and I'm going to be using a silicone stick to mix. I just want to make sure I'm not introducing any new bubbles. I'm going to be mixing slowly and for about 3 minutes. Hey computer, put a timer on for 3 minutes.
3 minutes, starting now.
And you want to make sure you're stirring slow enough, but not slow so it's taking longer to mix. You want the thin textured and thicker textured parts to evenly mix. Make sure you're including any resin from the bottom, from the sides. So it's gonna look foggy at first, like it does now. You'll see streaks of one textured over the other. You want to get it so that it's clear. There could be bubbles, but if it's clear and there are no streaks, that's how you know that you're just about done mixing. And it depends on your resin how long you should mix. For this resin, the Amazing Clear Cast, it does say to mix for about 3 to 4 minutes. So usually it's no longer than 5, but it definitely does depend on, it depends on your resin. And I should be finishing up soon. I'm seeing less streaks, and it's starting to look clearer as it falls off the stick. Hey computer, dismiss the timer. Okay, so now the 3 minutes are up. I'm just making sure everything is fully mixed. It is. All right, let's go ahead and get started. So we're gonna drag our coasters back over here and try to make sure you are on an even surface. I have some dried resin that dried in a mound, so I'm just pushing it closer to me to make sure that it's leveled. So I plan on using, I have my navy blue, teal or Tiffany blue, orange, and then a pink. And I guess I will use white. Usually it's less, like less colors are better. But I'm just being a little extra. And then another cup just for a little bit of gold. I'm not gonna do a drastic amount, just a little bit, because it's gonna pick up this gold on my edges anyway. So let's see, maybe this one's gonna be navy blue. Okay. I'm gonna fill each cup 80% or so. This is like the only resin that I have been consistently purchasing because it just hasn't steered me wrong. I've tried a few others. Honestly, I'm the only other one I can tolerate and I'm okay with using on a normal basis is Moss Epoxy's tabletop resin. That is a really good resin as well. But I think I get more for my buck using this one. So I'm only going to put a teeny bit in there for gold, and that's it. Like just enough for one pour of that. Okay. And then I have extras, of course. I'm going to leave that to the side just in case I need to refill any one of these. Let's go with our navy blue first. It's going to be here. So using acrylic paints, just as any other pigment, 10% or less of the pigment inside of your sectioned resin cup. You don't want too much. It'll take longer to cure or won't cure at all. It can mess up your balance there with the two parts. So I'm going to go ahead and just squeeze if it comes out. Okay. It's about, I'm only going to use about that much because I do mix in the mica powder too. So I'm going to put that to the side. And then we have our teal color. Okay, put that to the side. We have our orange. This one's kind of lumpy, which is gross. In there, put it to the side. And then this magenta, I want to see how it pours out. Oh, I think I'm missing a cup. Yeah, this was supposed to be for white. That's okay. I'm going to add in more resin in this one. It's supposed to be for magenta. And then let's add another one for white. I don't need too much of that one either. Okay. So white and gold, I'm gonna do the gold first, and that's easier because that white is just messy. So I'm just gonna take a little scoop, put it right in there, seal it, move it to the side. This white is so messy, but I love using it, so I can't complain, I guess. White right here. I'm gonna do about 3 drops. 1, 2, 3. Let's do one more. 4. And then add some white mica powder into that. So I'm gonna go ahead and add each of the matching mica powders that I showed you. I'm gonna go ahead and add them into each cup. So this is that Tiffany blue, and it's only just a little scoop, nothing major. Okay, this is my white. And this one was purchased, well, all my mica powders were purchased from Amazon, so I'll have some links for you guys. I don't need too much of this either. Okay, white. We have our blue. And as you see, for each color, I'm using a different popsicle stick. Personally, I don't want to mix them. I want them to stay as individual as possible. So we have a little bit of blue. And it's okay if they're not exact colors. Honestly, that makes it a little bit better. I found that when you use a mica powder that's a little bit lighter than the color, the pigment you're using, it gives it some depth because it's pulling in colors from the original paint and mixing it with the shimmer and lighter color that you have, if I'm making any sense. Okay, and this is the last one. Come on. My gloves are a little too big. Okay. There we go. So we have all our colors and matching colors in there. Now it's time to mix. So this is our deep navy, that acrylic paint. It's mixed with some mica powder. So you're gonna see a shimmer and it's really pretty. I'm not sure if you can even see it, but it's really pretty. So just mix, make sure that your acrylic paint is mixed properly. You don't want any chunks floating out while you're pouring. Yep, that's very good. Okay, first one down. Next one. I try to usually have 2 accent special colors and then 1 metallic and white. That's usually how I pick. I usually try to stick to 4. As you see, I'm like, I have like what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 colors, but usually try to stick to 4. You'll have 2 accent colors, white, and then a metallic. Usually that is a good formula for a good coaster. Okay, well, this one's pretty too. This one's all mixed. Okay, and then orange. This one was the chunky paint, so I want to make sure this one's mixed. And I can see like streaks of it still in there, so just keep mixing. You see it's getting darker because the pigment's getting worked in there. Okay, I think that is good. I still see some like little chunks though. I don't want those floating out. If they do, I guess that's a lesson learned. Probably need to try a different acrylic paint for that. That one's okay. All right. And then we have our magenta. And while these cups are sitting here, those bubbles are rising to the top. So if you have any bubbles, letting them sit for just a few minutes while you're mixing is perfect. Well, this is really pretty too. I think I'm gonna stick with this. I don't need to add any. I was gonna add some hot pink, but I think I'm gonna stick with this. I like it. Okay. And then we have gold. This is gonna mix really easy because there's not much in there. And this is the same gold, antique gold mica powder that I use to brush the edges. Okay. Yep, that one's good. Gold. And then my white. Oops. All right. Just want to make sure that's all mixed in. It looks mixed in. Okay. And you can start in whatever order you want. The way I'm going to show you is how I do them. I try to keep them in the same pattern when I pour. So I'll show you on the first coaster and then I'll explain it. Okay. First. we're gonna do our little bit of white. I'm squeezing the cup to get definitely a narrow pour. Because I don't want to use too much of that. I'm gonna do my pink. Let's get our popsicle stick out. Squeeze a little. Okay. And then our gold. And I'm gonna finish it with my navy. I'll go over there. We'll see, maybe, actually I'm gonna add another one. I'll finish it with that teal. If it lets me. There we go. Okay. So, do you see how I follow the pattern? So I had the navy, teal, orange, white, magenta, gold, went back to navy, teal, and I may actually continue, but I just wanted to show you how I do it first. And honestly, this is really it. So after I pour in the pattern that I want, and I do it on each coaster, we'll work on the next steps. So I'm gonna go ahead and make sure that I have enough of each color to get by, which I should, but just in case. I'm gonna go through each side, and these are kind of backwards on this side. So they're like reflecting or facing you. And that matters a little bit to me. I wanna make sure that I'm pouring in that same direction, but honestly, it's not a big deal. All right. I want to use my popsicle stick right here to get in that little divot, although it probably would level out and get there. I just want to make sure it gets there. Okay, and do you also see how there is some gold up here starting to come through? And that's because of our edging. So I was going to get that gold regardless, but just to ensure it, I added a little bit into our mix. So I'm going to go through now with the teal. Okay, next. And I'm pouring, the way I'm pouring, like that curve, I'm just matching whatever the navy has done. So I'm just following what the resin's telling me to do. Okay, right here, the edge. Because I know my lines are not going to be kept straight unless I would have let, you know, the resin get thicker, which I'm too impatient for that. I'm going to pour actually this way. Orange. And this same technique can be done with any shaped coaster, so it does not limit itself just to these. You pour in a pattern and then you tweak it after. That's what I found has worked for me. So we're gonna, I think the next color is supposed to be white, but let's make a little space for white. Let's pour white. Okay, there we go. White, let's come over here. Okay, I'm gonna pour my pink on these other ones. Oh, if you try to be special there. Slide it up so you can stop doing that. There you go. Okay, that was my pink, and next we have gold. So I'm gonna pour just a little. I may have to pour over this. Gold right there. Gold. Gold seems a little thicker. And we're gonna go back with our navy. I'm gonna have a little bit show up right here. Yep. This navy is beautiful. Usually my go-to is the Color Passion Navy Pigment Paste, but I wanted to show you that acrylic paints can do the job too. And not only that, I know some of the pigment pastes are a little hard to come by. You have to order them ahead of time. So these, you can run right into the store, grab them. Okay, we got our Tiffany blue. And then I'm gonna put just a little right here. I'm making my own space for it, which is okay to do too. The colors will still show up. And then what is after that? Orange. Let's put a little orange on some of these. And it all depends on what you want to show. If you didn't want to show too much orange, you don't have to continue the pattern that long. If you wanted to, then keep going. And my attempt at this point is to fill up my coasters because I don't want them thin. If they are thin, these points will be super jagged, so we want to avoid that. Since I have some white left, I'm gonna go in with white right there. Okay, and here. And that is all of my white, so I know my pattern can't continue with the white. It will probably be stopping before then. And then after that, we have our pink. I'm gonna add some pink. And basically the resin is pushing the other colors out of its way. So it makes this really cool pattern. And that's from pouring on top of each color. Okay. And I think I'm gonna end it there. I don't think I'm gonna add any more gold because there's a lot of gold going on right now. So what I'm gonna do now is come back through and add my colors back. So wherever you're seeing navy, add some more navy back. As you see, it's pushing my little circle down there at the bottom out of its way, which is fine. The colors will find their way and blend. But I'm adding some because I don't want my coasters to be thin. Another way you can prevent your coasters from being thin, I will probably cover this in the next day. I will. We can always do our clear coat of resin once this starts to cure. Let's go in with our teal. Okay. And you'll kind of see how each color works together. Some colors rise over the others. Usually it's white and creates those cells. Gold brushes itself over some colors. It comes up really pretty. Actually, I'm gonna pour that. Okay. And let's add some more. Actually, let's add some more orange on the, like that. So as you see, there are some methods to my little madness. But honestly, it's just letting the resin do what it's supposed to do. You can pour any which way you want, and honestly, the resin will still act in the way it's supposed to and react that way. So, best advice is be prepared for things not to turn out the way you want to, but still be open to whatever comes of it. I'm just using up my resin. And as you see, I did pour probably too much. Can't even tell at this point. And it's okay. I also have silicone mats that I'm working on, in addition to using like some silicone cups and everything I have over here that's silicone, because it is an easier cleanup. Once the resin cures, it peels right off. Peels right off. So, and as you see, my mold is filling, which is good. It's less resin I have to use later as a clear coat. Okay, and this is done. Cool. Clear is done. White is done. I think orange still had some. And if your cup is starting to get warm, that means your work time is ending. That's like your sign that you need to hurry it up. That means that the resin is starting to cure and that chemical reaction is taking place. So definitely finish up your work if you have not. Okay, I'm just pouring the rest of this orange. And in me pouring the rest of these colors, I'm literally just filling my mold even further, making the coasters thicker. I love thick coasters. All right, orange is done. I do have a little bit of gold left. And navy, let's get some navy finished up. So we had navy there, and navy here. Back here. And we lost some right here. Here. And back up here. And then let's see if we can add a little bit here, if it lets us. They only let us add a little bit, it's okay. Just getting out all of it. Navy is done. We're gonna add the rest of our teal. Try to at least. There. We lost some here. And here. And we had lost some right about here. Okay, and then I just want to add a little bit back here. Let's add some more back here. And my resin is heating up, so I'm just about done. At this point, I'm ensuring that each coaster is full, kind of, and honestly, probably a little over full, so that they're not caved in. It makes my job easier, so I don't have to do a clear coat. But even if you didn't have enough, it's always an option to do a clear coat. Okay, and this is the last of it. Okay. And the gold I do not want to put in here yet. I'll see if I need it. But what I'm gonna do is actually take my heat gun on low. This is gonna pop the bubbles and begin to mix some of the colors together, or push them around a little. So you can see that navy blue is kind of pushing itself over the teal. And I try not to do too much because I don't want my colors to like just look like brown once they end up mixing together. I want them to keep that vibrancy. So just getting all the bubbles. All right, and that is it for the heat gun. I'm going to use another mold, and that is just for me to use up my gold. I had a little bit of gold, so let's use it up. I think actually a little bit more than a little bit. Let's see. Let's use up the rest we have. I'm going to put this into a different mold. So if you have any leftover resin that you don't want to use, or or add to the coaster, then you can always put it into a different mold. And you can keep that mold as your pick-me-up in terms of like, anytime you have another color you don't want to add to it, you can add it to this mold. Just leave it there. Don't peel it out the next day, which is probably hard to do. So I'm going to add a little bit more gold in here. Oops. Okay, and that is it for day 1. See you for day 2. All right, so this is the next day. So it has cured for 24 hours. As you can probably see, it's pretty full, just about to the rim of the coaster. Now, if your coasters aren't full or you still have a lot of space, you would want to do a clear coat. Not too much resin, it's like 100 milliliters. A clear coat over your pieces so that they're all full to the max. It prevents it from being jagged and sharp. So now that they're full and they're cured, we're gonna start demolding, getting them out. So as you see, you have the gold edge, and that was from us brushing the mica powder, and then the colors kind of did whatever they wanted to. So it's 1, we got 2, 3, and 4. So any like excess resin that was just kind of left over, this easily cuts off. You can use scissors or an X-Acto knife, but it should be pretty easy, to get off. And just make sure if you need to, you sand it. You don't want it to cut anyone. But that is it. That's all that goes into the coasters. Be creative, make it your own and unique. But thank you so much for watching. Bye.